Again, thank you for the question. It's again in our platform that we will be supporting corporate tax in the big banks and at 3% level.
I don't know what he's saying. Keep him while you stand. Stand. Stand up.
I can stand up too. I'm tall. So yes, it is part of our platform that we are increasing capital corporate tax on big banks by 3%, and which has its headquarters out of the province, and anything that's in the province that and credit unions will be increasing it by 1%. We'll be putting a 1% tax on it. Yes.
Simon.
Thank you very much. Credit unions are concerned. I'm getting those comments that this is troubling. It'll mean less money to lend out. It'll mean less money for the credit unions to have in terms of returning to their shareholders. So this is troubling. Yes, it's true. The corporate capital tax is being increased to 11% from 10%, unlike the NDP, which is promoting permanently 12%. Our government is proposing it on a temporary basis only. Thank you.
I'll try standing, but that's just because I want to stretch my legs. I'm 6'3". The first time I met Preet at one of these debates, I have to look up at him. He's 6'6". He's a tall guy. Anyway, yes, I support the corporate tax. I would like to see it lowered over time, but because of our commitment to get rid of the carbon tax over 4 years, we would not be able to lower that tax at this time, the corporate tax, because that would take too big of a hit out of a budget. Provincial budget's about $48 billion. When we get rid of the carbon tax, that's going to cut about $1.2 billion out of the provincial coffer. So we have to do it slowly, carefully, and smartly. So I do support the corporate tax, and would like to see it lowered down the road. Thanks.
Marcus?
I think before I make any judgments or decisions on the corporate tax, I would have to hear all three sides. Not two sides, all three sides. I'd have to hear the side of the government, I'd have to hear the side of the corporations, but most importantly, I'd have to hear the side of my constituents. And you know what, when I went door knocking, that wasn't a question I asked. I'm not quite sure where you guys stand on that, so if you let me know, I will act accordingly as your MLA. Thank you.
I would definitely support looking into it because some of our best economic times have had higher corporate taxes, so I don't think it's a formula for disaster as far as taking business out of the province. We have a lot of resources, and I think we will keep a lot in the province, even if it goes up a bit, but definitely look into it.
Roland?
I would put the taxes up to the extreme on the mega corporations. I worked 38 years for the Canadian Pacific Railway. I get a huge pension, $24,000 a year, and I get $10 a month for my medical. I just letting you know, I'm doing fine financially.
I would support a corporate tax, the capital tax. And the issue, once again, being is corporations having capital is a good behavior. It's not a bad behavior. We don't want to punish them. We punish it as it is instead.
Our next question, and this is our actual last question that we have with prepared questions. Many consumers are concerned about the negative impact of the property transfer tax on housing affordability. For those who are unfamiliar with the tax, 1% is applied to the first $200,000 of the purchase price, and 2% is applied to the remainder of the price. The effectiveness of low personal income taxes to attract and retain workers in BC is offset by the high cost of owning a home. And this is intensified by the highest provincial land transfer tax in Canada. When the property transfer tax was first introduced in 1987, the average price of a home was just over $100,000. and the 2% portion of the tax was expected to apply to only 5% of home sales. Now the 2% portion is applied to more than 86% of home sales in BC. The property transfer tax is no longer a wealth tax. Many hardworking people are now paying a tax on an average priced home. The question is, and we start with Simon, are you and your party prepared to modify the personal transfer tax, the property transfer tax, sorry, in order to make housing more affordable? If so, how?
Thank you, Sean. This is an important question because it goes to the, as you said, the affordability of housing and also the possibility for people to purchase homes if they're close to the line in terms of qualifying. However, given our financial situation currently in the province, I wouldn't be, as an MLA at this point, to recommend that we lower the property transfer tax, although that should be an objective in the long term. But at this time, given our financial situation, it just would be problematic to do that, as much as I would like to agree with the recommendation. Thank you.
And Don?
Just for the people here that don't know, the property transfer tax brings in about $900,000, or sorry, $900 million to the provincial coffers every year. Thanks, Simon. So almost $1 billion. And again, the province has about $48 billion that they get. To cut that tax would result in the cutting of services somewhere else to seniors or families, and I'm not willing to do that at this time. Because again, we are cutting the carbon tax. Again, that's a $1.2 billion hit to the provincial coffers. What I would be open to is the 1% tax on the first $200,000 is possibly raising the ceiling from $200,000 to possibly $300,000 once the carbon tax is axed and completely gone, and maybe slowly easing it in. Thank you.
Marcus?
Well, it's funny that this question comes up because I was out door knocking the other day and I knocked on a couple's door. I talked to the guy and the girl, and they said, "Wow, you're a great guy, but unfortunately I won't be able to vote for you." "Why?" I asked. "Because we're moving to Alberta because it's cheaper to live there." That I've heard so many times. How many of you here have relatives or friends who are moving because it's too expensive here? I see quite a few hands going up. Yes, I would be interested in looking at modifying the property tax, property transfer tax. I would definitely want to increase the ceiling because back when it was brought in, I could get a lot better a home for $200,000 than you could get for even $400,000 now. It's antiquated. Thank you.
Wendy?
I'd be in favor of looking into it once we get a full accounting of what our budget is. I don't think we know the full amount of what the deferrals have been in different departments, and I wouldn't want to cut something in order to pay for something else that was essential. So I definitely would want to get a full accounting before looking at it, but it's definitely something that we need to look at for affordability.
Roman?
I would take it off. Let the corrupt mega corporations pay.
Eric?
The Green Party is reluctant to have anything that might shy people away from being part of the community and not being able to purchase a home. So fundamentally, we object to that type of tax. And again, buying a home is good behavior, it's not bad behavior, so it's not something that we have to tax. As Don pointed out, it's $1 billion. And we also get $1 billion from the Lottery Corporation, and we get $1 billion from the Liquor Distribution Board as well. To put that in perspective, my numbers say our budget is $43 billion, of which we spend 18 on healthcare, 12 on education, 4 on social services, and everything else is 10. So $1 billion is a big chunk of money, but let's not be penalizing people for buying homes.
Preet?
Thank you, great question. The NDP has looked at different taxes and has looked at extended the taxes and has proposed what it wants to change in our platform, and you can look at it up there. And unfortunately, property tax is not on it. But that being said, if I'm elected MLA and as part of the NDP government, I will bring it to the caucus and we will talk about it and see what we can do.
So that brings us to the end of our prepared questions. I would at this time like to ask if the candidates are prepared to take questions from the floor. Roman?
Where are your questions?
I would ask that questions from the floor, as much as possible, do not deal with individual specific issues, are respectful, and the questioner, please give your name when you are called to have your question. So we have 4 at the back of the room. Ladies first, and then Mike, Randy, and fellow standing up.
What is everyone's position on post-secondary education? I've heard a lot about trades education and that, but currently at the University of the Fraser Valley, we're at 115% capacity overall. Some campuses are more than that, and we've had a freezing gap, funding gap freeze for a number of years, and we're starting to feel like a bunch of my friends are starting to feel the crunch when they're trying to graduate, and they're not able to get the classes they need. So what will you do to help us? Because we're facing an even greater over campus.
And this will be started by Dawn.
What's your name?
Elizabeth Hatching.
Elizabeth.
Dawn, would you like to defer?
I'll defer for now.
Okay, then next would be Marcus.
Having being just at the age where I would attend a university myself, I know what you're talking about. The BC Excalibur Party has a really unique idea. Similar to the military, where you work for the military, they pay for your education for 5 years and then you work for them for 5 years. Why couldn't the government pay for the education for 5 years and then they work for the government at a reduced wage for the next 5 years? There are communities out there who need specialized skills and educations and they can't afford them. This would be a simple way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, not that I'm a fan of killing birds or anything, but it's Do I have a few seconds left? I just wanted to mention one other thing before I sit back down. Another thing, the university is becoming too much about money, not the grades. So our brightest students are often denied a university education just because they don't have the funds.
Likewise, we need to make it a lot more affordable, and we can do different programs, maybe more apprenticeship programs could be available with incentives from employers. Back east, they have much cheaper tuition, so that would, we need to bring it up to a better standard for tuition, so you don't have to be indentured for most of your life to get an education. And we need more available new technology training and just more available schooling. So,
I would put all private school on private schools on notice that after five years from the day of the election, they're on their own, and I would finance the public education to the max.
Eric.
Several notions on it. Currently, we spend just over $5 million a year on higher education. And so it's not an insignificant amount of money now. And then move on to the thought that the Green Party of BC has a long-term goal, very long-term, of making all education free. Education, money spent on education by the province is an investment. There's a return on investment. People make way more money, pay way more taxes, and are way better citizens when they're educated. So if we can possibly do it, let's shoot for free education way down the road.
Thank you. And thank you for your question, great question. So what we are saying in the NDP is that we will be putting additional funds, additional money into skills training, of course, and we will be putting more money into scholarships, because we know it's hard for our students to get the spaces that they want. And also, I think part of your question was, UFE do not get spaces, and what are we going to do about that? Was that part of your question as well? Or was it, yes. So that was part of your question as well. And I know university UFE is at 125% plus, and it's very difficult to get places. But that's a capital question of increasing, so we will have to really think about that and see where we can get the funds from.
Thank you. I taught at UFB for a total of 13 years. I've also taught at a couple of other universities. I can tell you it is a critical situation right now at UFB. I taught this past semester 162 students, and I have huge wait lists for virtually all my classes. So it's troubling. We need to be innovative and find new ways to get more students in, particularly for job-ready programs. That's the big thing I think we need to do. Get students into programs where as soon as they graduate, they can get into a meaningful career. So I'm encouraged by that. Just to let you know about the government, a couple of bits of information. According to information I've been given by the party, we have added 32,000 spaces in the last decade, but it's clearly not good enough. So we need to work on it. I'm with you. I'm encouraged. I look forward to representing you as your MLA, making it a #1 priority.
Just a couple thoughts on education. One of the other candidates said they would take all the money, I believe he said, from private schools and put it into the public schools. We do support, our party supports public schools, but we also support private schools, just for the record. Also, just another thought on education is that the Liberals have created 6 years ago what's called the Pacific Carbon Trust. That's where hospitals and schools have to pay carbon offsets just to heat their buildings. And over the last 5 or 6 years, the schools and hospitals have had to send $56 million back to Victoria. So I think we could use that money and put it back into hiring special needs teachers for our elementary schools, and also looking at doing some more hip and knee surgeries for our seniors. Thanks.
Mike.
Thank you, Sean. Mike Scudder. Sean, yesterday, my son, who's in his mid-20s, who has chosen a career in the computing industry, app development, very entrepreneurial, very subject to the economy, very subject to people's ability to spend. He was online yesterday having a discussion with a former teacher. The discussion came around to spending, as it always does. I haven't heard any high-level comments about balanced budgets tonight, which has been a big issue so far. It certainly is for me in this election run-up. He put online an article I hadn't even seen from Canadian Business, which suggests that even though things are turning around slightly in Canada, and particularly on the West Coast, but also says that there's an extremely good chance that our economy will backslide next year, and that it's very close in this country to taking another major hit, and that all the provinces in Canada, with the exception of one, which is this one, has parties and opposition parties who are restraining themselves. So I don't understand, what I want to hear from all the candidates, because it's great stuff being suggested here, but they all cost money. And we have two major parties that are very divergent on balanced budgets. So I'd like them each to say how they would address my mid-20-something son about his future and not mortgaging him. Thank you.
Marcus, you get to start this one.
Alright, well, a balanced budget, that's something everybody wants. Everybody here wants a balanced budget. Nobody here wants to see us continue going into debt. But the thing is, I heard earlier something was mentioned about the cost of the West Coast Rail. That cost is a lot higher because we sold BC Rail. We can't balance a budget by selling tomorrow for a bit of today. And I ask you to keep that in mind, because at the current rate, your son is not going to have much left in his 40s of the province to live in. I lost my other thought there, sorry.
Wendy?
One example, I think we are due to go into economic freefall probably, just things like hydro, where it's predicted that that will go into deficit probably in the millions in the next few years. And then there's the Site C Dam, which would cost about $10 billion if they added on to that. But last year we were actually wasting power. Our cheap power was going over the dams, and we were paying for high-priced power. So that's just one example of things that are hidden costs that we haven't really calculated yet. So we need to add all those costs up.
Roman?
You can't always balance the budget.
Eric?
Mr. Scudder, a fundamental part of the Green Party budget or policy is a balanced budget. We're extremely strong in the notion. We are very aware, and it's why my conservative background works into the Green Party. It's fiscally conservative. Balanced budgets, you don't spend more than you got, and make it work somehow.
Reed?
The NDP platform is quite clear, and it's available on bcndp.ca. It's quite clear where we are raising and what we are going to spend it on. And we are saying that we will not be increasing the deficit that is right now there in the BC government's books. We have a deficit of almost $800 million because you do not sell assets to balance your budget. So we do have that deficit. So we are saying how we're going to raise the money and how we're going to pay for what we're going to do. Programs that we're going to put in. We have said that in our platform. And we are also saying that in the next 3 years, after 3 years, we will be balancing the budget because it will take us that long to fix the fiscal mess that we'll be inheriting.
Thanks for that question, Mike. I teach business at a university. I know what it means to meet a payroll. I was partner of a manufacturing company. We had 13 employees. It's essential that we make that our goal. I believe there are some people that are cynical and say, you know what, it's not really a balanced budget, and that's okay. It's okay to think that. It's not the end of the world. But is that the aspiration? Is that the goal, to balance the budget? I think it is. It's a powerful vision. And uniquely, the BC Liberal Party has embraced that. There's only 2 provinces in Canada this year that have a balanced budget, Saskatchewan and BC. It's pretty exciting. Be thankful for frugal politicians that don't promise you too much. Be thankful for that.
The BC Conservatives are committed to running balanced budgets and not by selling off assets. You can only do that once. I think another bigger issue than balance to the budget is the provincial debt. Can you imagine if your spouse had a credit card debt of $30,000 and then you decided together as a couple that in 12 years you're going to pay that all off, but then 12 years later you come back and you look at your spouse's credit card, now it's at $60,000. You wouldn't be very happy with that. Well, that's what the provincial Liberals have done. When they got into office, debt was around $30 billion. It's almost $60 billion now. And we're committed to trying to lower that debt. Thank you.
Randy, you have the next question?
Yeah, I'm Randy Thomas. One party in the election has committed that they're going to get rid of the secret ballot vote for certifying unions. And I want to know from the candidate whether you agree that the secret ballot is actually the most democratic form. And if you don't agree, please tell me why you think the secret ballot is not the most democratic way that anyone can decide whether they want to belong to the union.
Wendy, you get to start this one.
I'm in favor of the secret ballot because I think there can be forms of bullying if your vote is known on some issues. I had a little bit of experience with that myself, voting for a CEO, and I think there can be votes changed by the time we get to the end of the line if it's an open vote where people don't feel like they can vote against whoever or for whoever, because it's already known where the vote is going and they don't want to be the outsider. So I'm definitely in favor of the secret ballot.
Roman?
I believe in the secret ballot.
Eric? Me too. Free.
Thank you. Great question, Randy. Right now, it's a secret ballot, and what we are saying is that there will be a review, and we'll see what happens after that. But that being said, we are also saying that there will be no more union and corporate donations, so that you and I, the public, the people, can make the decisions, not a corporation sitting somewhere donating money, or a union sitting somewhere donating money makes the decisions on behalf of us. So there will be no more. Once the entity comes in, which should be coming in about 5 days' time, we will be banning union and corporate donations.
Simon?
The NDP candidate says they just want to look at it. Well, why would they bother looking at it if it's a good system? Seems to me they're thinking about changing it. You'll see on CNN sometimes news reports of flaky elections from countries that we hardly know where they are. They're not secret ballots. I don't want to live in those countries that they don't have secret ballots. It's one of the hallmarks of democracy. We can't give it up.
The BC Conservatives support secret ballots 100%. It's a basic tenet of democracy, and I just can't believe somebody would even consider taking secret ballots out of the system, because then you can be bullied later and intimidated. Thanks.
Basically what all the other candidates said. Here's a question for you. Our provincial election, do you go into the polling station and do they have your name written up on the board, and beside it it says, Mary Ann Polshuck voted BC NDP. Simon Gibson voted BC Liberal. No, we don't. And that's the same thing in a union setting. If you don't have a secret ballot, you don't have a democracy, because people can come down the road and bully you. Have you seen our election signs lately? People are kicking over election signs. People are burning election signs. Enough said.
Back in the room.
My name is Derek Ross. I own a corporation in high-end technology, development stuff like that. How do we keep people who go to school in our province, because all the people with education is funded and subsidized are all going to Alberta? And this is a serious issue. What's the point of education if we can't keep them in our own province? We can't afford to pay them. Just your thoughts, please.
Roman, you can start this one.
Mr. Moderator, I'd just like to ask you a question. Do we get to make a closing statement?
There is a time for a closing statement at the end, yes.
Thank you, sir. Now, what was the question I'm supposed to answer?
How do we keep people in BC? Because I see so many people who are educated leaving our province with twice the amount of money going to Alberta and lower housing costs.
Fairness for all, special privileges for none. Lower the taxes. Except for the mega corporations, boost them up.
Green Party doesn't have a whipped vote. That means that we're never told how to vote by the leader. We always vote according to our own conscience and what you guys tell us to vote for. So one of the Green Party candidates, Alex Pope from AbbotsfordMission, has a marvelous idea for addressing exactly that. He says, in line with the Green Party notion of making education free, how about we don't really make it free, we charge them the money, we loan them the money, but 50% of their income tax after they start working goes to paying back the rent. That's a BC income tax.
If I could just, one thing on there. My wife is Ukrainian, and over there they get free education. They all leave the country, there's no jobs.
So this is the back off of free education. You owe the money, but you pay it back by staying in BC, and we use your BC income tax to pay it back.
Thank you.
Yes, I totally agree with you. That is an issue, and that's been an issue for the last few years. Since we cut apprenticeship training from 42 to from 43 to 37%, what we have in BC, and the way I figure it out, what we have in BC, we have jobs with no people who can do them, and we have people who have some skills but no job to do them. What we need to do is train the people for the jobs that are available, and that's way we keep the people at home. And I would love to keep her because I've got kids. I don't want them to go to Alberta. I want them to have jobs here. And that's what we'll be trying hard in an NDP government.
Sam.
I agree, and in fact, I taught one of your sons, didn't I? He was a good student, so I'll let you know. Just like...
I like his father.
Are we sharing the time? We have 100 different trades in apprenticeship here in the province. It's one of the highest in the country, so we're working on it. Sometimes students will graduate and they haven't maybe received proper counseling and they quite know what to do with their degree, as you're pointing out, so what are they going to do with that? So one of the things I like to talk to my students about, ask them when I first meet them, so what are your career plans? What do you want to do? And a lot of students, they don't know, I would say 50% of my students, my generation Y, 18 to 22 students, don't know what they want to do. So part of it is counseling. I really believe that. Part of it is counseling, getting them early and finding out what do you want to do, nurture their skills so they can go out and make a contribution. They want to, they're desperate to go out, but how to do that? So thanks for the question.
I think we can keep our kids in the province here by having high-paid jobs for them. The BC Conservatives, we support the wise, sustainable extraction of our natural resources, whether that's various oil pipelines or LNG or forestry or fishing. We do want to balance the environment with natural resource extraction. Again, we are opposed completely to the garbage burner being down in the valley here. And I think everybody here on this panel is committed to a gravel pit new gravel pits on Sumas Mountain, and we have other issues where we will take a strong environmental stance. And a gravel pit moratorium on Sumas Mountain. Thanks.
Marcus? No, Marcus first, and then the rebuttals will follow.
Alright, well, before I say anything about this topic, I gotta say, we need meetings like these while the government's in session, not just at election time, because... Now, earlier I mentioned an idea about providing students education and then them in return working for the government at reduced pay. I think that kind of takes care of the problem, because if you work for a government for 5 years at a reduced pay, then you're here for 5 years, you have job experience, and you know what you can do, you've decided what you can do, and you know what your next career is going to be. You know how you're going to continue your education. You know exactly what you're going to do because you've been here for those 5 years.
Can I comment back on that?
Wendy?
If I can pay that off quicker by moving to Alberta.
Wendy? Wendy?
We need to look at what we're subsidizing and look at who we're subsidizing and are they outsourcing the jobs as well. If we could take some of that big chunk of money that we're subsidizing fossil fuels with, which they all make fortunes, and reinvest in our own communities and localize jobs and more integrated jobs in communities, that will be a lot better. We've had a lot of brain drains, whether it's been in healthcare. We've trained people and yet they've left because of the situation with basically the organization of how it's done. So we just need to relook at it.
Eric, you had a rebuttal?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I wanted to object to a comment that Don made about all of us being in favor of a moratorium of gravel pits on Sumas Mountain. The gravel industry does provide excellent jobs for us, and 2/3 of gravel production in our communities is consumed by us in public infrastructure projects. So if we're going to increase their costs or put moratoriums on them, we're just going to increase our own taxes to try to build our infrastructure projects. You gotta stop. Take that away from them, Gordon.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Well, I totally agree with Marcus over there.
Microphone.
Oh, yes, of course. I'm getting used to speaking loudly now. I totally agree with Marcus over there that we should be having these meetings. So what I have promised everybody, and I've committed to, the people I've met over the course of the last 3 or 4 months as I've been electioneering, I've told them that if I get elected as your MLA, I will be coming back to you in reasonable bit of times, all the time, for opinions and.
Marcus, you have a response?
Well, seeing as you mentioned my name, I felt it fitting to comment on that.
Yeah, of course.
On my profile, I said that, and I actually spoke with the Fraser Valley Regional Library about this already, we would hold meetings at the Fraser Valley Regional Library every, probably about 2 months, depending what the budget is, so that not only will the MLAs talk to you, but the city councillors and city mayors will talk to you as well, and you will have an opportunity to present your concerns and questions directly to them. Although I will have an open door policy as well. Thank you.
Heather Stewart, currently serving as president of the Business and Professional Women of Mission. And my question is, what has your party done in the past or will plan to do in the independence case? What would you do to encourage more women to run for public office?
Eric, this is yours.
The Green Party is very fundamentally based in diversity and equality. Right now, the way our politics works is incredibly aggressive and confrontational, and everybody's really, really mean. These guys are awesome tonight, but most times, if you ever watch our legislature or the House of Commons, it's absolutely dreadful there. And they don't answer questions. All they do is call each other names and catcall and be mean to each other. That's no place that a typical regular member of our society, let alone some of our sort of softer, milder, politer women would want to be. I think by cleaning up our democratic system, by making it a true democracy, by making it far more grassroots, we'll apply a lot more, and we'll have a lot more women wanting to participate.
We are the new Democrats, right? So we are democratic, and anybody and everybody is open to run, is open to stand, and is open to be nominated and be elected. So we are very, very open to women, to people from all religions, all races, everybody.
Simon?
Well, I, of course, am running for a party headed by a woman, relatively rare in Canada, as you know. And I guess a personal comment, I think I've got a pretty thick skin at times, but I watch how our premier gets beaten up in the media, and I wonder how she really feels about that as a woman. I wonder how she handles that sometimes. So it's tough. I don't really have a solution, other than to say, women who are confident, women believe they can do it, let's nurture them and encourage them. I served on a council with the first woman elected to that council in history. And she was a real asset. And some of you know that a home for battered homeless ladies in Victoria Brook end of Abbotsford was named after her. Chris Lamb, some of you know her. So yeah, you were involved. Way to go. Let's get more involved in local government, municipal, and federal. Thank you.
I'd be completely open to new ideas on how to get more women involved in politics.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to get this.
Oh, yes.
Thought I reached my time limit or something back there.
I've got you.
Well, in the BC Conservative Party, you only have to be 14 years old to become a member, and so we're trying to encourage younger people to get involved into local party politics at a younger age, both male and female. Specifically on how to make it more interesting for ladies. I don't know, I guess just maybe in school, I know a lot of schools, they vote, they have, during a provincial or federal election, they'll have like a mock election for the different parties. Maybe have some more of that in some of the schools that don't have it, but anyway, thank you.
Wendy? Or pardon me, Marcus?
Well, my female colleague beside me must be pretty awesome. She got called ahead of order. I think that shows to go that women can succeed no matter where they put. Our party, although it only has 6 members, is a very diverse party. You're welcome to check out the website and see who we have running it. You know what? It's a really complicated question. I'm open to ideas, and if you would like to meet with me, meet with me after the debate to discuss it, that would be fantastic, because I don't think...
when?
Right after the debate. I will be here in Mission until about 11:30 tonight, because there's no transit back home. I have to wait for a ride. Yeah, so any of you who also have that same question, this should prove to be an interesting conversation after the debate if you have time. Thank you.
I think Marcus was angling for a ride home. Wendy?
I think it's just good to encourage everybody to do better. You have to be a strong person to be in politics. You get beat up a lot no matter who you are, so I would just want to set a good example no matter who, and I always think that the best person should win. It shouldn't matter whether you're female or male, but we definitely have a demographic where a lot of youth and women are not necessarily as encouraged, or it's not as easy for you to get in there.
I would be quite happy to respond to this question. When I decided to seek office, I went through 17, what do they call those guys, accountants. I was scolded, I was told I was an idiot, that we're under the British parliamentary system, I know nothing, and it would cost me $3,500 for the audit. I was turned down by 17 people, only one person had a good excuse, she died. Then I find out that if you spend less than $10,000, I spent $5,000. You don't need an audit. It's easy to run. You can bypass the political parties. Don't pay any attention to them. Don't pay any attention. Political parties divide people. You can run.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Heather, I believe that the gentleman behind you had his hand up some time ago.
Hi, Kevin Francis. Countries like Norway, Scotland, Australia, Denmark, most of the Scandinavian countries, Germany, even the United States are leaving us in the dust because they're turning their economy to a green and technology-based economy. While here we keep on promoting the same old dinosaur fuels. They've realized that for every $1 million you invest in green, you create about 10 jobs, while you create about 1.5 for the oil industry. When will you and your respective party, if applicable, will push the government to switch to this kind of technology?